Please join me in welcoming to the stage Jeff Cates, Managing Director of Intuit Canada.
I wish I could start off in French like Minister Bernier did, but I think that would not be very productive. I want to thank you for all coming today. It's an honor to be here. First off, I would like to say a special thank you to Minister Bernier for his time and effort. You're making a great impact overall in Canada. The federal government has brought a new focus to the issue of financial literacy. Initiatives such as the Task Force on Financial Literacy and the legislation to create a financial literacy leader are vitally important steps to move this cause forward. These initiatives are necessary focus required to make financial education a core resource that we can build the Canadian economy off of. And yet, as much as Minister Bernier and his colleagues deserve a lot of credit, the fact is this is a big challenge and not something that government can do on its own. It's something that private industry, academia, not-for-profit sector, we all must work together to help make a meaningful change. And it's why events like this are so important to bring these ideas together. Now, it's not that easy to bring so many people together to focus on one cause, especially one like this. And so I wanted to take a quick moment to say a special thank you to the woman that really made this all possible today, this event. Can we please give a round of applause for Victoria Lennox, the founder and CEO of Startup Canada. Victoria has given a new voice for entrepreneurship in Canada. Like the best entrepreneurs, she has a vision, she has a passion, and she's all behind bringing her cause forward. The first time I met Victoria, some of the folks I was with basically said, get ready. And you've got 5 minutes. And about a half an hour later, I was just swept up by the energy and passion she has for helping entrepreneurs succeed in Canada. So thank you for that. The Startup Blueprints is a great example of the work that Victoria and her group have done going across the country that's been talked about already, getting the voice of entrepreneurs directly so that we can distill that back and understand how we can develop policies and programs around that, both government and private industry. The fact is that being an entrepreneur is tough. It's tough work. The glamorous success stories we see in profit usually are at the backs of many struggles, failures, and pivots, if you will. I started off as a small business, and I remember there were a lot more days where I had Kraft dinner than I did steak. So when you think about it, the challenge of entrepreneurship is really not that much different than the challenge that we have around driving financial literacy. It's not obvious, it's not easy, this challenge that we have before us, and it will take people with bold determination and a bold view to help see it through. And so it's going to take people like Victoria bringing us all together, putting our thoughts together, putting our minds together to not focus on the problem, but focus on the solutions that will help us move the cause forward. And so that's why I'm so excited to have the distinguished panelists that will be up later today, as well as the startups giving us new ideas. I'm sure we'll have a productive and fruitful conversation. While I have the floor, I'd like to talk a bit about what Intuit has done in terms of research and some of the things we're doing coming up focused on financial literacy. When we saw the stats around how many companies are struggling to be successful past that 5-year mark. I think maybe Rick had said 49% will fail. We looked at it as the half glass full and said 51% won't fail. No matter how you look at it, the fact is that's a pretty high ratio. And so when we look at that, that's, I'm sure we can all agree, a lot of business failures, but a lot of ideas that won't see the light of day. Not necessarily because they're not good ideas, more so because businesses don't always have what's required to be successful over the long term, in particular around financial literacy. And so our purpose is really, as Intuit, to help small businesses succeed. Our whole goal is helping small businesses start off on the right financial footing to ensure that they're successful, ensure that they can have profit, the reward for doing a good job. And so when we looked at that failure rate, we said, hey, this is a cause that we should dig into. And over the last 6 months, we've done 2 particular reports looking at what's behind that financial management challenge that small businesses have. Our first study found that the majority of small businesses start off with less than $5,000. In fact, 58% are less than $5,000. Now, $5,000 is a shockingly small amount of money to start a small business off of. And what's interesting is that most of those starting off are doing things like using personal lines of credit or racking up credit cards or drawing lines of credit against their house. And so there's a lot of risk associated with that seemingly small amount getting their businesses started. But not surprisingly then, that the number one thing when we ask small businesses, if you were to go back and do it again, thinking back about that first year, what would you do differently? What can you teach other small businesses as you reflect? And the number one thing that they said was that they wish they had spent more time before they got in business, before they put the shingle up, understanding financial management skills. In fact, it was the number one thing before some other pretty important things like establishing a business plan, getting a mentor, and getting professional business advice. All other 3 things, really top things that came out. So if there's one message from that initial work that we did, it's that getting the initial capital in many cases is not really the core challenge. But almost all small businesses, once they get started, they'll realize the challenges of managing cash flow and the importance of financial literacy. So our second research that we did really focused a little bit further in terms of understanding what was behind that first year experience. And so we wanted to get an understanding of that financial acumen, if you will, of small businesses in Canada. So we went out to about 500 small businesses across the country and gave them a 10-point quiz. And we asked them questions like, what is the role of the balance sheet? What is the definition of accruals? How can short-term cash flow be improved? And the results show that there is a clear financial literacy gap in Canada. Only 2% had a score of 9 or 10, considered great. 16% had a good score. 39% had a passing grade, 5 or 6. Not great for what I would give my kids. And 44% failed. So not only did it show that there was a gap, it showed that there's a likely reason for that. When we asked small businesses, how many of you went out and sought out professional help and tools when you started off? Only 1 in 10 actually went out and got help starting up their small business. And so our study found that there's both a clear skills gap and a gap in awareness of how real the problem is and how to solve it. Now, it's not all doom and gloom. What's interesting is when we ask small businesses, do you have an interest in building out your financial management skills? That was a clear, oh, yes. There's a bit of a, we don't know what we don't know. But we know where we'd like to learn. We'd like to learn from professionals, in particular accountants. So 42% that they would like to learn from accountants. They'd like to learn from other small businesses. It's about 23%, I think, said we want to learn from our peers. We want to learn from mentors that were also small businesses. And just over 20% said they want to go online and learn through things like webinars or online topics. So what's encouraging is that they want to learn. What's also encouraging is that they see a direct payoff when they do. And so what we found is those that had an advanced understanding of financial management skills, as they categorized it, are 5 times more likely to use financial management software or help from an accountant, tools from an accountant. And what we found out was that 76% of small businesses that did use a small business software package or help from an accountant felt that they had a high degree of confidence managing their business. Whereas only 16% of those that are using pen and paper or manual methods could say the same thing. So that we know that from our 2 studies and from that research that things like getting that help up front, investing in the right tools, things like QuickBooks, will help to ensure that they're successful. But it's not the only thing. It's not the only answers coming out of the studies, and we certainly recognize that. This is a big challenge for all of us, and it certainly requires lots of us to think about where we engage with small businesses and how we can help them. Today, we're announcing that we have a special partnership with the Youth Business Foundation, Canadian Youth Business Foundation. And we're going to try something new. Recognizing some of the research that came out, we are going to give the entrepreneurs, as part of that membership, access to QuickBooks Online, our online cloud solution, to give them the tools to help be successful. But furthermore, we're launching this Trailblazers program that will focus on a small number, 15, of small businesses, where we'll not only give them the tools, we'll match them up to our accountant network to give them mentorship to be able to help get them started. So we give them the tools, we give them all the great tools that Youth Business Foundation already provides, and then we give them accountants to really help get them started. And we're going to use that to help get experience directly from the entrepreneurs that are in the program, so that we can take that back and develop new programs and new ways to educate them on financial literacy. So I'm really excited about that, because what we've learned is learning from small businesses is really the answer. It won't come from the top down. It will come from entrepreneurs themselves. So that's one example of one thing that we're going to do. Anxious to see what comes out of it and where we go from here. I'm really excited and looking forward to the discussion with the panelists later today, and with the startups that will give us some good insights later to see what other good ideas come out of this that we can all work together to help drive financial literacy in Canada. Together, if we all work together, in particular with government, not-for-profit, as well as industry, we can help raise that success rate of small businesses in Canada. Thank you.